There are places in the world where the line between the possible and the impossible becomes thin. Places where the stones themselves seem to argue with our understanding of history. Places built by hands we cannot identify, using methods we cannot replicate, for reasons we can only guess. These are the structures that should not exist, and yet they do. They stand in silence, holding secrets older than memory, older than nations, older than the stories we tell ourselves about human progress. And as we explore them, we confront a truth that makes the past far more mysterious than the future. Our journey begins underground, not in a cave formed by nature, but in a city carved with intention. A city so vast and complex that it could shelter entire populations. A city so hidden that it remained undiscovered for centuries, sleeping beneath the feet of villagers who had no idea what lay below. This is the story of Derinkuyu. In 1963, in the quiet region of Cappadocia in central Turkey, a man renovating his home broke through a wall. He expected to find empty space or old stone. Instead, he found a passageway into darkness. Curious, he followed it. The passage led to a room, then a hallway, then a staircase that spiraled downward into the unknown. What he found was not a basement, not a cellar, not a natural cave. It was the gateway to a lost universe. Derinkuyu is an underground city that descends more than 280 feet into the earth. That is the height of a 25-story building, but inverted. Level after level, tunnel after tunnel, room after room, carved entirely by hand into soft volcanic rock. At its peak, it may have sheltered up to 20,000 people. 20,000 underground, hidden. As researchers explored the city, they found stables, kitchens, wineries, storage rooms, meeting halls, wells, air shafts, religious chambers, and long corridors so narrow that only one person could pass at a time. These narrow corridors weren't accidents, they were defenses. In times of attack, residents could roll massive circular stone doors into place, sealing off sections of the city. A single guard with a spear could hold an entire tunnel. It was a fortress, it was a refuge, it was a world within a world. But the deeper investigators went, the stranger it became. Ventilation shafts carried air down to the lowest levels with astonishing efficiency. Some shafts were so perfectly positioned that even modern engineers marvel at their design. Water sources were protected deep below, unreachable to invaders above. And the entire layout suggests planning on a scale that does not match the known history of the region. Because here is the mystery. No one knows who built Derinkuyu. There are guesses, theories, and debates, but no definitive answer. The city is so old that its earliest builders left no written records, no inscriptions, no symbols, no names. All we have is the architecture itself, silent and stubborn. Some believe the Phrygians began the construction around 3,000 years ago. Others argue that the city could be much older, carved by cultures whose existence has been lost. We only know that generations expanded it, deepened it, and used it as a sanctuary during invasions. But the original creators remain faceless. Who organizes a project like this? Who decides to carve an entire civilization beneath the earth? What fear or genius or necessity drives a people to create a world in darkness? As you walk through Derinkuyu today, the weight of the stone around you feels ancient and intentional. Passages lead to others, branching like the veins of a living organism. You can feel the echoes of thousands of footsteps that once hurried through those narrow tunnels in times of danger. You can picture families sleeping behind sealed stone doors, listening for sounds of battle above. You can almost sense the breath of the underground city itself. Derinkuyu is not just a structure. It is a challenge to our understanding of what ancient societies were capable of. It should not exist. It demands tools, organization, and engineering that appear far beyond the civilizations we associate with its age. And yet, it is real. It endures. But our journey doesn't end with an entire hidden city. Now, we move from the work of countless hands to the work of a single pair. Imagine a massive stone monument constructed not by a civilization, not by an empire, not by a team of laborers, but by one man. A man with no engineering degree, no heavy machinery, and no assistants. A man who worked mostly at night, away from prying eyes, crafting something that even today baffles experts. This is the story of Coral Castle. In the early 1920s, a man named Edward Leedskalnin arrived in Florida. He was frail, barely over 100 pounds, and in poor health. But within him was a heartbreak so deep that it would shape the rest of his life. His fiancée, whom he called his Sweet 16, had left him the day before their wedding. Devastated, Ed sought purpose in creation. What he built was a massive complex made from limestone blocks, some weighing more than 20 tons. He shaped them, lifted them, and arranged them with a precision that seems impossible for one person. Visitors who came years later would ask how he did it. Ed often replied with a quiet smile and a simple phrase, "I know the secrets of the pyramids." What does that mean? Did he study ancient techniques? Did he discover principles of leverage that others overlooked? Or did he understand something about balance, weight, and motion that most people never perceive? We don't know. What we do know is that he built a 9-ton stone gate so perfectly balanced that a child could push it open with one finger. We know he erected towering walls, carved unique stone furniture, and positioned astronomical markers. And we know that he did it using tools he mostly built himself. If that alone were not mysterious enough, consider this. When Ed decided to move his creation to a different property, he somehow loaded and transported the massive stones on his own. Truck drivers who hauled the pieces said they never saw how he lifted them onto the vehicles. He worked in silence, often behind screens or barriers. To this day, some of his methods remain unidentified. Coral Castle challenges our assumptions in the same way Kuyu does. How does a physically small man move stones heavier than bulldozers? How does he carve them so precisely that they appear machine-cut? How does he balance them so perfectly that they rotate with a touch? His explanations, when he offered any at all, were poetic rather than scientific. He hinted that he understood the laws of weight and leverage differently. Some claim he used magnetic principles. Others argue he was simply a brilliant, self-taught engineer. The truth is likely somewhere between genius and obsession. Coral Castle should not exist in the way it does. Yet it stands as a monument to determination, mystery, and the strange capabilities of human beings working alone. But while Kuyu hides beneath the ground and Coral Castle rises from heartbreak, our next structure is alive. It is not built from stone or wood or metal. It grows, it adapts, it strengthens with age. This is the world of the living root bridges of India. In the remote hills of Meghalaya, rain falls harder than almost anywhere on Earth. Rivers swell rapidly, washing away traditional bridges. Wood rots, metal breaks down, concrete fails. The environment is relentless. But the Khasi people of the region discovered a solution that is not just practical, but extraordinary. They do not build bridges, they grow them. Using the flexible aerial roots of rubber fig trees, they guide the roots across rivers using bamboo scaffolds. Over time, the roots strengthen, thickening into natural beams. What begins as a narrow path becomes a living bridge capable of holding dozens of people. These bridges do not decay, they do not weaken, they do not erode like human-made structures. Instead, they become stronger with every passing year. Imagine a culture that views architecture not as something built for immediate use, but as something grown for future generations. Some living root bridges take 15 to 30 years to reach full strength. The people who start them know they may never walk on them. They build not for themselves, but for the descendants they will never meet. This is a form of structural thinking far beyond engineering. It is biological architecture. It is patient architecture. It is architecture that respects time in a way modern society rarely does. These bridges should not exist by the rules of traditional construction. Yet their existence proves that human ingenuity is not limited to tools and technology. Sometimes it is found in collaboration with nature itself. Here, in part one of our journey, we have seen three impossible structures: a city hidden beneath the earth, a castle built by one man, and bridges grown from living roots. Each defies a different assumption. Each challenges a different belief about the past. But our journey is not finished. In part two, we will climb into the mountains, where an ancient civilization reshaped the earth on a scale so vast that modern engineers still struggle to understand it. And as the documentary reaches its conclusion, we will uncover the true meaning behind these impossible structures and what they reveal about us. High in the Andes Mountains, where the air thins and the world feels sharpened by altitude, a civilization once reshaped the landscape itself. Not with machines, not with iron, not with wheels or beasts of burden, but with an understanding of nature so profound that their creations still function centuries after their empire fell. This is the world of the Inca, and what they built is another structure that should not exist, yet does. The Andes are not gentle mountains. They rise steeply with fractured rock faces and unpredictable weather. Landslides are common, soil is thin, water runs quickly down slopes, eroding everything it touches. For most civilizations, these mountains would be barriers. For the Inca, they became canvases. The Inca engineered more than 20,000 miles of roads through some of the most difficult terrain imaginable. These roads stretch through deserts, jungles, and peaks that climb above 15,000 feet. Without wheels, horses, or pack animals, the Inca built routes that connected their vast empire with astonishing speed. But the roads are only part of the story. The true marvel lies in their agricultural terraces. The Inca cut the mountains into giant steps, creating flat, stable surfaces where crops could grow. Each terrace was layered with gravel, sand, and soil, allowing water to flow gently downward without flooding or washing away nutrients. Many terraces were built so precisely that they are still in use today. In some regions, the terraces create microclimates. Crops that require warm temperatures were planted in lower terraces. Crops that needed cooler air grew higher up. The layout allowed the Inca to produce a stunning variety of food across extreme altitudes. Modern engineers study these terraces not just as historical artifacts, but as masterpieces of sustainable design. They stabilized the mountains. They managed water. They fed millions. And they did so without the metal tools or written engineering manuals that dominate modern construction. Then there is the question of how the Inca transported massive stones across these mountains. Some stones weigh more than 50 tons. They were carved with such precision that a sheet of paper cannot fit between them. The Incas did not use mortar. The stones fit together so tightly that earthquakes, which are common in the Andes, cannot topple them. Instead, the structures move with the shaking ground, staying intact while everything around them collapses. How does a civilization without iron tools shape stones more precisely than many modern builders? How do they move stones too heavy for modern cranes? How do they align structures with astronomical accuracy while building on cliffs and ridges? These questions have no simple answers. Theories exist, but the absence of written records leaves much to interpretation. The Inca, like the builders of Dirincuyu, left their stories in stone rather than words. As we travel upward through the Andes and imagine the expansion of the terraces, the placement of temples, and the carving of stone, we begin to see a pattern. These structures are not merely feats of engineering. They are expressions of human will, of vision, of an understanding of the world that goes beyond materials and machines. The Incas did not conquer nature. They collaborated with it. They shaped the earth while allowing the earth to shape them in return. But our journey does not end in the mountains. These four examples, a city beneath the earth, a castle carved by a single man, bridges grown from living trees, and terraces etched into mountains are not isolated miracles. They are clues. Clues pointing toward a deeper truth about human beings and our relationship with the impossible. When we look at Derinkuyu, we see people who refused to flee from danger. Instead, they created a sanctuary beneath their attackers' feet. When we look at Coral Castle, we see a man who answered heartbreak with creation instead of destruction. When we look at the living root bridges, we see a culture that planned not for years or decades, but for generations. And when we look at the Inca terraces, we see a civilization that used the harshest terrain to grow life itself. Individually, each structure is extraordinary. Together, they become a message across time. These structures should not exist according to the limits we place on ancient civilizations, but they do because those civilizations did not share our limits. They did not see obstacles the same way we do. A mountain was not a barrier. A heavy stone was not a burden. Time was not measured in years, but in generations. Survival was not forced, it was engineered. When we describe these places as impossible, what we are really doing is confessing that our understanding is incomplete. We measure the past by what we assume it should have been, rather than by what it truly was. We imagine ancient people as primitive, forgetting that they were as intelligent, creative, determined, and resourceful as we are, perhaps more so. These structures are reminders that genius does not belong to any single era, that innovation is not modern, that mystery is not rare, and that human beings have been solving impossible problems since the beginning. But there is something else these structures reveal, something deeper. They show us that architecture is not only about physical materials, it is about the human mind. The underground city reveals fear and protection. The stone castle reveals heartbreak and obsession. The living bridges reveal patience and cooperation. The terraces reveal mastery of nature. In each case, the emotional world of the builders is written into the architecture itself. These structures are stories. Stories told not with words, but with stone, root, soil, and endurance. Some stories speak of survival, some speak of love, some speak of unity. Others speak of ambition so vast that it reshaped the earth. In our modern world, technology gives us speed, power, and efficiency. But it sometimes makes us forget something essential, the pure human drive to create. These ancient builders did not have machines. They did not have engines. They did not have steel or electricity. They had only their hands, their minds, and their visions. And from that, they built the impossible. As we end this documentary, imagine standing in Derinkuyu with thousands of years of earth above your head. Imagine touching the stone gate of Coral Castle and feeling its perfect balance. Imagine crossing a bridge made of living roots, knowing it will outlive you. Imagine standing on an Inca terrace, overlooking mountains sculpted by human will. These structures may defy logic. They may resist explanation, but they prove one thing beyond doubt. Humans were never limited by the tools they had. They were limited only by the imagination to conceive what did not yet exist. And as long as we keep imagining, the impossible will continue to rise around us.